Hey guys, welcome back to She Became Me Live. And me and my co-host are so glad that you guys decided to join us today. So come to She Became Me YouTube channel every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to catch this show. So hope you guys had a great weekend and everybody's doing well. And we're going to continue the series of connecting with youth. And we're going to start off pretty much just talking about youth accepting themselves in the format of building self-esteem, value, and worth. And that's where we're going to jump in today and kind of start capturing some of those things. We want to talk about how as adults that it's our duty and we need to be concerned in different corners of youth lives, anywhere and everywhere we fit in, that we're going to make sure that we could drop or pour some type of experience, love, and concern into our youth. So with that being said, I am Lentina Rogers, and I will introduce you guys to, well, they're going to introduce themselves, and co-hosts will start introducing themselves. So go ahead, Ronieka.
I'm Ronieka Howell, and glad to be here with you guys on today.
Hello, Yolanda Brown.
Chino, and I'm back again.
So today, for our spotlight interview time, we're going to interview Ronieka. So we're going to ask her a lot of questions so you guys can get to know her better, and where she can go ahead and plant some healthy thoughts and ideas from deep within that mind of Ronieka. So Ronieka, so with the series continuing to be on connecting with the youth, how do you connect with the youth for as how do you see yourself connecting with youth for self-acceptance?
Self-acceptance is a big deal when you're talking about youth, because a lot of things that happen to us or things that we experience, it happens as a youth. And so just really being a mother again, right. Or even like working in work at a church, and yes. So being able to pour into students that have been in small groups that I've
right.
helped with, just really getting the students or the youth to know that you have to first love yourself, no matter
right.
what it is that they experience, no matter what it is that they are going through.
Right.
You still have room to love yourself, even through whatever that situation is. And a lot of times the peer pressure that's put on the youth, they think that, I have to fit in with this group, or I have to be down with this group. And right. I beg to differ. Right. So I always try to challenge the youth or the students to always, it's okay to be the puzzle piece that does not fit.
Or be lame. Or be lame, because
I
like to sound like being lame.
It's okay to be lame, because guess what? I was the lame one, and I intentionally did not try to follow the crowd.
Right.
And I always, even my children, I say, okay, so the ones that you want to be around so much, check them out in 5-10 years down the road.
Right.
And so the lame ones are the ones that still stand.
Right.
In the end.
Right.
So really just getting them to be comfortable with who they were created to be.
Yeah.
And just giving them just speaking life into them. Because a lot of times when we do experience things, I can remember things that I experienced as a youth. I talk about some of them in the book.
Right.
Chapter 8, My Peace, My Purpose. Some things will take us out if we allow them to.
Right.
But just knowing I have a purpose. Even when I'm going through the mess,
right.
I have a purpose.
Right.
I am somebody. I was created for this.
Right.
So just really pumping that into the youth or even students, because they have it. It's really hard. I don't know if I can handle being a student or you
right now would be tough.
I wouldn't go back. I
tough.
wouldn't go back.
Yeah.
At
So
all.
That's good. That's good. Self-acceptance is something that I don't think I realized that it was an issue or a challenge for me until I realized some of my insecurities. And so it came out when writing this chapter in the book. And I'd never spoken on these things before as it relates to that it's okay. So I wrote my chapter to my 9-year-old self, that it's okay to be smart and speak well. Because I was teased for talking white as a young girl. I also wrote in one of the lessons to my younger self was that is embrace your natural hair and your full lips.
Yes, honey.
As a young girl, I was talked about for having big lips. And so it wasn't until, oh my gosh, I don't even know, maybe high school, latter part going into college, where I started to be okay with having full lips without feeling insecure about it. Such things, you can never wear red lipstick, you can never, just several things, that all are part of accepting who we are and feeling okay with speaking well. Now, the common term, I wrote about it in the book, code switching. Now, I can go back and forth, but don't get it twisted. But it was, accepting that it's okay to value education, getting good grades, speaking well, and being okay with that. And also, as adults, understanding that we must be what we want to see in young people. So they watch us, and they watch whether they see our insecurities, they see when we're not sure, and we do extend that to the young people that we influence. And so by our words are powerful when it comes to accepting who we are and helping young people, because when we're saying things that are unproductive or not positive, that impacts their ability to accept who they are.
So let me ask you a question, you ladies a question. A lot of times when we talk about young people accepting who they are, embracing themselves. I think a lot of times, or most times, we look at that from the perspective of the kid who's on the outside looking in at the cool people. So what advice would you have for the kid who's already in the in crowd, right? He's already in there and then sees what it is and is like, I don't want to be the man anymore. I don't want to be with this crew, right? Because I feel like it's a lot easier to encourage a kid to embrace himself from the outside looking in, but a lot of times I think that kid who's already in gets left out and nobody really checks on him. Like, what's some advice you can have for that kid or a parent that maybe dealing with that?
Well, let me say this. Some of my chapter in my book, and my first book, The Sun in My Eyes, I spoke on that because I'm glad you brought that up, because people don't talk about that angle. Because for me, I felt like I was the kid that was missed. And this is why I want to go back and pour into kids, because I want to mentor the me that I see in you, the kids. And I'm the kid that had everything that everybody thought would be okay. For instance, I was on A&B honor roll. I was a cheerleader. I was an athlete. I always had a boyfriend. My parents, I was not poor. So, everybody focused on, if you're poverty stricken or you're a single parent home. My parents have been married for 55 years. So I had a father in my life. I didn't really have a lot of things that people would deem as trauma. So nobody wanted to hear me crying and whining about anything, because they feel like, what do you got to complain about? So, but I feel like that I still needed emotional support. I still needed mentoring. I still needed people to build me up. Although I think my parents did a great job giving me what they had, but there were things they didn't know, so that limited me. So there were nobody else. So every activity or organization that was around, it was for either single parent home, or you had to make less money, or this, that. So I was missed. I fell between the cracks of everything, but I always was hungry for mentorship and for people to pour into me, because I always thought I had potential, but I still needed someone to guide me and to help bring out the best in me. And my parents was limited to what they could give, and there was no programs. So I wanted to provide a program for anybody and everybody. There would be no barriers. So definitely that was for me.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say that is a really good point, and it proves the point that all kids need mentors,
Exactly.
and that, you know, and I'm not gonna get to throwing out all the data, but it may come up. But Indiana kids, and look at the suicide ideation rates.
Yeah.
And a lot of those kids that are excelling,
Right.
rank high, you know, as it relates to, even though they may not go through with it, but the ideation is there.
Right.
And one thing that I do, I don't know if I put this in this book, but 7 in 10 girls believe that they're not good enough.
Yeah.
And it's due to family relationships, physical appearance, not measuring up in some way.
Right.
And so all of these types of things come into play for all kids, no matter what their circumstances. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
It is. It's a good, and then my little short piece on that, in my chapter in the book, I speak on, I left home at 16. Nice home, but the things that we dealt with as a family unit. So my mom was a functioning alcoholic, and so I made good grades, but it was just like, for some reason, I felt like it was safer for me to be out in the streets finding it out on my own than it was in my own home.
Right.
And so, but because of what I saw my mom going through, and I just remember saying, like, I don't want to go through this. I don't want to, or I'm going to get in trouble for doing something by protecting her.
Right.
And so I chose to leave from my home at 16 to figure out life on my own because it was too painful. And I knew that I had a purpose. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that being there, it was going to block me from what I felt like my purpose was. And so I took that chance, and it was rough.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I had to know that you know what? No, I'm not a bad person for doing this, but it was more so to, like, I felt like I was like saving my own life, if that makes sense.
Well, let me ask you this question. How did you find that courage at 16 to even make that decision?
Because I think that I had gone through so much up until that point. So much happened before 16. So I was just a mature kid.
Okay.
I watched a lot, and just like how you said, like, our children, they know when we are going through things, they know our strengths, they know our weaknesses. So I was that kid that when conversations was going on, I knew all of the business. So, cause I wouldn't be playing and on the video game and I would be listening. I knew every single thing that my mother was going through.
Wow.
Everything. And so I think that it matured me, because in my little mind, I was just like, okay, how can I help mama? Okay, mama, okay, I don't hear her keys, I didn't hear her car pull up, so I'm not going to bed. It was just one of those things, and a lot of things that I did around the house. She taught us, she poured a lot into us, but she dealt with a whole lot.
Right.
Was there ever a moment that you watched your mom go through that was defining in the development of you, like you appreciating you, like you said at 16 you had already been through a lot? Was there anything that your mother had said to you, like a specific thing or something you watched her do that gave you that sense of pride that you still carry today?
Oh yeah, she always taught me, she said, even if you don't have anywhere to go, always look like you got somewhere to go. And she always taught me to never let them see you sweat.
Yes.
Never let them see you sweat. Even if you sweating, don't ever let them see you sweat. And so, and she always keep God first. Even when she didn't take us to church, she made sure we was at church. You know, and so keep God first. She just instilled that and drilled that in us. Even in her lowest moment, she just made sure we had everything, but she was just sick herself.
Yes. Right. Okay. Well, for me, because as I said before, I struggled with fear when I was young. I just couldn't imagine at 16. Now, I had a lot of responsibility because I was the oldest. And you know, back in those days, the oldest child, you're almost like the second mother. So I had a lot of responsibility, but I just don't see that I would have been so fearful to just say, I'm leaving here. But I admire you for having that courage at such a young age and being able to overcome, you know, all those barriers that you probably have to face. So and today, but I can still see that into you right now. This is why you wear so many hats, and you don't have any fear because you threw fear out the window a long time ago. So
Yeah.
That's good.
So ladies, just another question, because I got all kind of stuff in my mind.
Yeah.
It's 3 ladies and 3 moms.
yeah,
Sometimes we go through situations as parents that I'll just say they define us and they help help us create a definition of what we consider success or what success looks like, right?
Right.
But that definition is different for everybody else,
right.
As a mom, I'm pretty sure you've come across a situation with one of your kids where the route that they were taking, that they believed was the best route.
Right.
How do you decide how far to let your kid go and bump their head versus let me snatch you up before you go ahead and burn your hand on the hot iron? And I say that because young people, a lot of times the self-worth that they are starting to define for themselves, a lot of times are attached to people that we would never want our kids to be like if they grew up.
Yeah.
Even some of the things we've done.
Yeah.
Like what are just, can you just talk about that a little bit as a mom and raising young men and women and doing your best to navigate them so that their value of themselves isn't attached to maybe their favorite singer or their favorite rapper or a trend that's going on?
Well, you know, I have 4 sons, and I became a single mom very early in life, and it was very difficult. I am, proud to say at this point that I never had to go bail my kids out of jail. But one thing that I instilled in my boys was we're going to spend time on the basketball court, the football field, and because I'm not going to go sit inside of a juvenile court, because I'm going to be proactive than reactive. So they didn't have any choices. So at 6 or 7 years old, everybody was mandated, you will go out here and you will be a part of something that's positive. And they did that until they got to high school. So they hadn't have any choices. So I would say is, kids don't need to be making choices. A lot of times I see that some parents are giving kids too much voice and choice. And I understand in the latter years that people start saying things like kids are people too, kids have expression and they express themselves. But sometimes that's how you get in dangerous waters, because kids do not have enough experience to be making certain choices. So I'll give you a choice about saying, do you want the red juice or the blue juice? But I'm going to decide if you're going to have juice. And I'll give you a choice to say, do you want to go to bed at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, but you will be in the bed before 8 o'clock. So I'm sure you're going to take 8 o'clock, because otherwise you got 7, but you will not have 9. So at the end of the day, I just feel like you have to give them choices, and that is helping with self-expression, but you have to have boundaries. As you can see, one of my main little things here, Sip on My Salsa, is about boundaries, because you have to teach kids how to have healthy boundaries. And the word healthy is the key word here, because you can have boundaries, but they may not be healthy. So, like saying, oh, my kid can go to bed as long as they get up for school. Well, it's a boundary, because you're saying, well, you can go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning as long as you get up when the alarm clock go off. Well, first of all, that's an unhealthy boundary, because if that child needs sleep to function properly at school, they may get up, but that don't mean they're best. They're not learning as best they can when they get to school. So, yeah, for me, I would just say, I'm not gonna let them do anything until they're 18. My boys wanted to get a ear pierce because that was the end thing. And when they got to middle school and high school, I said, well, you won't get your ears pierced till you're 18. And then it'll be totally your decision, because that way we won't have any regrets. And none of them wear earrings to this day. But they just wanted to jump on the bandwagon with everybody else. So I just stuck to my guns. And then when they got 18, I prayed for them.
That's right. Yeah. For me, just really honing in on each one of my children's strengths and weaknesses, and then pushing them in the direction where they were strongest at, and then helping them develop those weaknesses. So my oldest son very artistic, creative, but when it came to, he had a learning disability.
Okay.
So he was failing on that aspect of it, but he was just excelling in sports and the arts, anything of that nature. And then just getting him the help that he needed to kind of like balance that out. And so, but I actually put him in music, and it helped him like his
academic part.
Yes, like his math and science, it started to excel. So then he got a balance. And then my middle, she's kind of like was well-rounded, but her attitude sucked. And so it's like, okay, so yeah, you have this part together, but let's work on your attitude and how you respond, to others and to situations. And then my youngest son, he's very academically inclined. But then again, it's just like, just him being the baby, he's just like, he expects certain things. Right. But just always trying to push them in the direction and where they're the strongest at. And then, okay, again, it's okay, we all have strengths and weaknesses. We just try to, work on them both. And so that's kind of.
That's good. Well, I'm just going to, I don't know if I'm going to come off as the good or the bad but let me just say that trial and error. My daughter is 24, as I stated in our first episode, and I am just now learning things that she perceived as unhealthy parenting. Because I've been the dictator. I've been the let's talk about choices parent. But one thing, and there were other family members who said that I was too easy. That you give too many choices, but it wasn't really that. I always talk to her like she in a mature fashion. It's like, I'm going to ask you questions.
That's right.
And then when it came to friends that weren't good or some unhealthy decisions that I saw potential, I would just ask, what is the value in this? And what do you value about this person? What do you like about them? And sometimes, because no matter what we say, they're gonna go do it anyway. And so it's just like, I can only give advice and just say, this is what I see. And once she became older, there were things that in 6th grade she didn't understand that we were battling about, and then come high school and college, I now see what you meant. So we have to stay true to those lessons and not waver. See, that's the thing. When we don't waver, no matter whether you're hard or some of her friends thought that I was the the mean parent. But hey, this is what I see for you.
That's right.
And trying to save you from some of the things that I've already done. See, that's one thing that young people don't know. They don't think that we've been through what they've been through.
Oh, no. We was born a full adult.
We was born mature, didn't do nothing. Didn't come across the same experiences.
I invented some of the stuff you're doing, so let's talk about that.
So true. Yes, got the t-shirt.
I think you guys all just hit valid points. I just had a moment with my daughter where earlier this year we were arguing about her decisions when it came to her wants versus her needs, and making more responsible decisions, right? And she was like, "Oh, you're so hard on me. Every time you say something, it's because I'm doing something wrong. You never say what I'm doing right." And I'm like, that is not the truth. And we're just going at it, right? And I'm like, oh my God, our relationship is going to crap. I'm being too hard of a parent, right? And so it was some shoes that came out, some Jordan Hairs that came out maybe a week or so ago. And she called me. She was like, I really want these shoes, but you know what, Daddy? I ain't about to waste my money on them shoes. I'm gonna put that money in my bank account. And in my mind, I'm like, all that arguing work, yes, right? And the crazy thing, and I like what you said as far as pushing it and reinforcing it. And was that she didn't even realize. She didn't even realize that she had made this decision. Right. So I took it upon myself. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go buy those Jordans for her. Because shoes is our thing. One of the things we connect on. I was like, I'm gonna go buy the shoes. So we were sitting there talking, and I was like, hey, your shoes came today. And she was like, what shoes? I was like, the Jordans you wanted. She was like, you bought me them? I'm like, yeah. I was like, you didn't even realize it. I said, I didn't even have to tell you, argue with you. You said, you know what? I think it's better for me to take this money, sit it in my bank account, because I know I want to do something for the summer, a trip or something when everything opens up. I said, for me, that was a celebration of you making a decision on your own without me having to push the button. I said, but one thing I want to do is make sure I acknowledge that, so you can see the growth and development in yourself. And you can also see the growth and development in me. Maybe I wasn't celebrating your wins enough because I'm so used to you getting them.
That's true.
So here's the celebration. Here go your shoes.
Right.
Thank you for making better decisions. And so I think that is a major key as we try to guide our kids to being the best version of themselves, is to also acknowledge it so they can see and be proud of what they've become and how they develop too. So and we got some questions that we got to get. Last time you got to pick.
So you go ahead.
No, it's all about you to pick these questions. Let's see where we go from here.
Where do we go on today? We got mail. She-mail.
Yeah.
How long do you offer your time to help someone that continues on the same path?
That kind of ties in, don't it?
Ooh.
How long?
Ladies, we're going to start with you.
Go ahead.
We always going around. We're going to mix this up.
Let's start in the middle.
Woo, that continues on the same path. Woo.
Look, how long?
When it becomes toxic, energy draining, and detrimental to productive thinking and productive communication, that's when you have to make a decision. That's what I believe. So you know your capacity for dealing with toxicity, and know your capacity.
I like that. I think that of course every situation is different, but like you said, if it becomes more draining and it turns into negativity, if you're positive that you're pouring into it, if you can't see that reflecting out of it, then I say, hey, then for me, that's when I start backing off, because then your energy starts to be drained, and then you start before long, if you stay in it, then you start thinking that's the person in the situation. So I agree with you on that one.
I would say that I'm going to stop when it starts to not feel good for me. So just say it's a family, friend, or coworker, whoever. If someone's constantly complaining about a certain thing, and they come to work or they call you all the time, complaining, at some point, I'm going to be harsh. I'm going to say, hey, it's really simple. Either you're going to shut up and deal with it, or you're going to make a decision and say you don't want to deal with it anymore. But what you're going to do is stop complaining to me. Because I don't like that negativity and a constant, the repetition of the same old thing, because you actually just become numb to it, and you just accepting it and dealing with it regardless, because it's going on so long. But I'm not going to be a part of it, and I'm not going to let people pull me into their tornadoes. So I'm going to get myself out. And for the word long, I'm not going to do it very long. I'm ADHD, I don't do anything.
I love it.
I'll keep it simple and say, if my cup is always full, and all of a sudden I'm thirsty and I ain't got no water to put in my cup because I keep giving it to you, we gonna wrap it up, little buddy, and we gonna keep it moving, and I hope you find some water somewhere else, because I need to be able to drink my water. That's for me. I don't know how much time we got. We got a lot of time. We got a little time, or
we can do one more question, probably.
Oh, it's your turn.
We can do one more. Somebody's.
Oh, no, not that one.
What happened in your life that made you become spiritual?
Well, I guess the first question is, are you spiritual?
I know for sure all of us at this table are spiritual, because that's how we connect at the heart. So.
Oh yeah.
So go ahead, Chino.
I wouldn't say it was one particular thing. I would say it was more of a series of things, but coming all together, more of an awakening. And waking up and seeing that the actions of my father, how they played into my life. I'm finally, honestly, because of Tina, getting back to working on my book. It's called The Gospel According to My Daddy. And it was I was telling her about the beginning and things of that nature, and I was telling her why it took me so long to get through just a line, because with every line things started to unravel. You know how like they got the sweater and
Yeah,
you pull on it?
yeah.
And it was like, and I'm getting goosebumps now when I see that. Because as I started to write, I started to understand how the things that my father did or did not do were affecting me as an adult man.
Right.
So for me, it was more of an awakening and understanding that the same influence that my father had, and he was really only in my life, I would say, up until maybe the age of 9 and 10, and after that it got rocky. So much had happened, let's just say between the ages of 5 and 9, that it was still impacting me 20 and 30 years later. And it was just, it blew my mind to think like I treated a woman that way because of things he showed me, or I dealt with money that way, or even the biggest thing was my definition of what love was really defined by the way his multitude of girlfriends treated me. So for me, it was that awakening that really tapped into that spiritual well that I had probably assumed dried up, and all of a sudden I just got all this fresh water and this fresh energy and a fresh and new perspective. And it was almost like instantaneously, it was like, you know, like I got LASIK a few years ago, and I'm like, I see the world different. It was like an immediate wake up one morning, and like, yo, this is a different color. Like the sun is really that yellow, the sky is really that blue. You know, my skin is really that brown. So for me, it was almost like a snap of the fingers, but it was years and years of, and I don't want to just say trauma, because some of it was good times too, but it was just years of experiences that are kind of sat locked away, and I think they had kind of been seeping out and defining and making me do certain things, and not as an excuse, but sometimes when you finally wake up and you see, it's like, whoa. And that's what it was for me as far as tapping into that spiritual well.
Wow, that's good.
That is.
Woo, this question right here. So, have you ever, I'm just going to answer a question with the question. If you've ever been in the midst of some foolishness and that little nudging that says, cut it out. You know, and this is something that I've written about as well. I've written about just those times in my life where I was taking penitentiary chances. And it was when I could say nothing but God kept me through those times to help me, you know, even especially when you're in the midst of stuff and you get a little bit of accomplishments in the midst of that, and you feel like you're being blessed, and you almost feel like you're doing it on your own, and that you're responsible for it. And I've been broken to, I write about brokenness. I've written about brokenness a lot, and brokenness, I turned it into an acronym: breaking and removing obstacles with knowledge of God's power and his word, and never ceasing prayer. Because getting to a point of understanding that prayer changes things, that came at a point in my life where I'd almost lost everything, you know, and so through it all, I'm still here, you know, and that truly is glory to God, taking me from, I say princess to a pauper, you know, prostituting my time, my energy, taking me from promiscuity to being a wife, you know, nothing but God. Nothing but.
Ain't it crazy how when you couldn't see yourself getting better, when you better, you like, I can't believe I'm better. I didn't see me getting there, but now that I'm here,
that's it.
I can't believe I'm here.
That's it. In the moment. For me, I'll be quick. Just being able, because for me, I think that I've always had like a spiritual connection, but not being able to tap into it until a year ago. And being able to go within and to face every single thing that I have ever dealt with or gone through in life, and not allow it to take me out all over again. So just being able to, just like a person that's going through an addiction, if I can go stand in front of the crack house, and not be tempted to go in, or not be have the pressure of you know. So it was like one of those moments to me where I was able to go within and knock down every brick of the wall that had been surrounding me my whole life, and move forward. So that was that moment when I was just like, you know what, this connection that I have, this is my spiritual awakening, like you said, you know, that spiritual awakening and that enlightenment that happened at that very moment, just a year ago. And even writing this book, that chapter challenged me because I had to go back and relive all of those moments. So yeah.
I would say for me, I didn't have no one particular defining moment, but I think it's just, there was a time that I just realized that I finally understood the peace in my heart and the harmony of existing, and that God gave me an opportunity and a purpose to be on this earth, and I needed to do something with that, and I needed to tap into that. And so I think what really just made me understand being spiritual is that that thing inside of me, nobody can take it. They can't take it, they can't bend it, they can't do anything with it. That relationship's between me and God, and it's just very personal and very private, and it's almost like I could just look at people and be like, you know, you could do whatever you like. You could place me somewhere, you know, anywhere in the world, but as long as I got that thing, then, you know, I have peace. So just having that peace, I think, and that brings me joy, and I'm able to just smile deeply, like I talk about, and be able to smile deeply and be happy deeply, and just maintain that joy. So I think that's the time that I realized that I was spiritual and I was connected to the source. Because it is a source, and you got to stay connected to the source. So I guess, guys, we are probably out of time, and we'll let our viewers know once again. We thank you guys for spending time with us, and until next time, see you.